I'm Ohm's mom. Ohm was 16. He was murdered by his dad during unsupervised parent time. We need your help to keep kids safe in our state. If I had stayed, he would have killed us all. That's the truth of it.
Yeah.
I can't let this happen to anyone else. If I can do something, I will, because I do not want any other protective parent to feel this way ever. We had 14 years of court abuse, many years of abuse before that, but 14 years of protracted litigation, basically being involved in family court, where I told the courts over and over again about his dad's substance abuse and sexual assault history and child abuse and the whole 9 yards. And through the system, as we were caught up in it and caught up in all the evaluations and all the extra hearings and all of these things, the courts didn't actually see and also didn't act on what I was trying to convey. And that's really what this law is meant to do, is to help to untangle these situations, give courts more tools to really understand abuse and understand how to identify the safe parent and get kids to safe parents as soon as possible so that things don't last this long, so that children are not killed.
Okay. Welcome to the Julie Jeppson podcast. I am here with Leah Moses. I knew her like over 20 years ago. We were in the same university ward up at the University of Utah where we met both of our husbands. It was a ward with like 500 people in it, and
sometimes 6 or 7.
Yeah, there were huge. So many, and I wasn't even supposed to be in the ward. I wasn't in the boundaries, but he let all of us in. This bishop was great. So a lot of things have been happening around the country and in the state of Utah when it comes to children's rights and protective parents. And Leah has been 1,000% involved in that. And so I wanted to talk to her because this is so important right now for so many women that are dealing with this. She's got an incredible and heartbreaking and tragic story that we're going to make triumphant in the end. So Leah, just start with your story. This is just conversation. Just take it away.
Well, this is a lot easier, I have to say, just with you than it was when I just testified in the House Judiciary Committee.
Oh my gosh, how intimidating was that? She full on was speaking, giving her testimony of what happened with her domestic violence situation in front of politicians.
Yeah, it was
and
intense.
Airing out everything for the first time, right?
Right. Even my family hadn't heard some of the things that I talked about in that testimony. So you can find the testimony actually on the Judiciary website, and we can probably post that.
I can link that. Yeah.
It's, warning, it's not, it's not pretty.
It's not.
But they think that if I go all the way back to the beginning, I was really, really classic, educated, and I came from a great family, no abuse in my background, that I just did not know the red flags. So when that's
because when we are in Young Women's, we're like, go on a mission and
I did.
Follow the yellow brick road to the temple. And we're both active members of the church still.
Yes.
But there are things that maybe could have been addressed back then.
Culturally, I think we're improving.
Yes.
So, I did all of it, right? Active my whole life, BYU, taught at the MTC after mission. All of the things that you would think, that's actually what in some ways led me down this path of not understanding abuse, because I was surrounded by so many good people.
Loving people, loving family.
In our ward, my family's fantastic. And I think that when it hit me, it really hit me hard. So, met this guy who had been, he was just seemed phenomenal from the outside.
Yeah.
This PhD, had all...
Did he have it then already?
He had the PhD, he had lots of aspirations, he had just... the charisma, of the usual narcissist that you meet. And I did not know until it was too late really what had happened before, and in his whole life, intense porn addiction, all kinds of issues in his family, and
okay, so back it
up.
I wasn't
the first one.
Oh, I'm sure.
Nope.
Not the first victim,
the first
and
one.
You're usually not, because they go to their next supply.
Right.
So you met him at church. He had a PhD.
Well, I met him through a friend.
Yep. And then he followed you to,
and then
we believe.
Followed
you to the ward. But, did you fall in love with him? Did you feel like you were being courted? Like he was dating you?
at first, for the first very, very short while. And then, you know, and I shared this already with the Judiciary Committee, which again was so challenging. But, you know, when there's sexual assault, and sometimes I use a clinical term because I'm in medicine and women's health, but really, I mean, most people understand it as rape. When you are in the position that I was in, you know, faithful, believing, hoping, all of that, and, you know, I was 27, 28 at the time, after someone does that to you and then continues, you feel like you are totally trapped and can't get out.
When she talked to me about this, she talked to me and she kind of related it to the Elizabeth Smart experience, because so many times people said, well, why didn't she just leave? And when people said that to you now, what do you say? It's not that easy.
It's not that easy. And when they say they're going to kill you if you tell anybody what they've done, then you start to believe them. So
how comfortable are you backing up? I mean, he raped you multiple times, and you didn't report it because he's threatening you.
Right. And I was scared. And I also felt like I had this, I mean, I had the reputation of, you know, I mean, I felt like I thought I was a good person.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought,
teacher.
This doesn't happen to good people, but it really does. And I think moving on from that, you know, when I found out that I was pregnant, and then, you know, what else was there to do but get married?
Of course.
And culturally, that's another completely challenging topic and a conversation for another day. But did your family, were they upset at you? Were they disappointed? Nobody knew you were pregnant. Were they upset that you weren't getting married in the temple? Sure, of course. Yeah. And I don't know if I would say upset, but like disappointed. It didn't make any sense. The pieces didn't fit together. And that's actually one thing that we all can do, is when you notice in someone's life that it's like incongruent, I think it's really, really important to recognize that there's a possibility that something is wrong.
Because surely they were all saying, well, Leah's smart. Like, she knows what she's doing when
I was in the middle of grad school.
Yes.
Yes. And so you'd think that, you know, someone who has formal education and like a solid LDS background, this is never going to happen. But that is not the case.
And is this like, I mean, rape where you, I mean, I'm thinking of the movies where the woman is screaming and fighting, or are you just submissive because you're scared?
That's another place that is hard for me to go to. Yeah.
Okay.
But I understand what you're saying, because I think what you're getting at is that our idea is media. Like it all comes from media. So you're like, you think of movies. Right. And I mean, so many of us have been sexually assaulted and hardly any have come forth with like the real story. Yeah. And so what we know is media. Exactly. And that's why people come up with this, like, well, it was the short skirt, or it was whatever. Course. Well, I didn't never have the short skirt, you know, but that was in mind. Right. But I think that there's something to be said about believing
the victim.
That's the most important thing that we can do. Yeah.
And was there ever a time when you did reach out and or not, and you weren't believed?
I mean, it was much later. It was totally isolated. Like he used every tactic. Yeah. There was
to silence you. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other tactic that he used too was what he had done with other women. And, you know, I mean, I was dropped off at the doorstep of Planned Parenthood and told, you will abort this child. And so that's, I didn't even call him a child. So that was really my first experience.
Did you tell him you were pregnant?
So he knew that I was pregnant. Mm-hmm. He told me, you will get an abortion. And now that I look back, I realize he knew exactly what to do. He knew where to go.
Yeah, you're like, you've done this before.
Yes. I am not the first, and I wasn't the last either. So as I was dropped off, I just knew, in that moment, I knew I had a choice to make. It was either my child's life, and then I knew that it was basically like prison after that. I mean, that's really what it was going to be. So it was either that, or I could be free, but I didn't know how I would totally become free of him. Yeah. I mean, it was intense. So that was my decision. One or the other.
But what was his threat? Like, if you kept him?
Well, you'll never be a mother. I'll take him. You know that you're doing this to yourself. Like, this is your fault. You know, all of the usual threats. But I wish I could be even more articulate about it now, but I think it's like...
But you did say to me, I'm sure. Yeah. Unless...
It's okay.
I haven't even...
Yes.
So it's so intense.
I know.
Because I'm like, you did say to me it was the one reproductive choice that you had. The one.
It was the one reproductive choice that I made alone that... when I think I still had the choice, right? We weren't married yet. It might have been a little bit easier. I mean, I had friends tell me, I'll give you X amount of money, like thousands to leave the country. You should
Yeah.
move to Australia. They're very family friendly, go and change your name, disappear, don't ever come back. Because they knew that it was, that bad. This is after Rome was born. I mean,
but he would have found you.
He would have found me.
He would have found you. Okay, so you have tell me about him.
He's the most incredible kid.
Cute little boy.
He's so sweet. And he has his personality was so calm from the very beginning. I didn't fully get to choose his name, but I think it just fits him.
It does fit him
perfectly. Yeah. I mean, his name means peace. That's what he meant his whole life. There were times when...
And it's what he still means.
It's what he still means.
Yes.
It's what he represents to me now.
Totally.
Yes. And people ask, why are you doing this? Why are you even telling this story?
Yes.
Why are you even out there? Why are you talking about this? I mean, I haven't yet, right? I waited and waited and waited till I knew I had a real purpose. But now that this legislation is out in his name, which we can talk about.
Yes.
I mean, the reason for it is that I can't let this happen to anyone else. If I can do something, I will, because I do not want any other protective parent to feel this way ever.
I mean, Leah could essentially right now wash her hands of everything and be done. She's, for lack of a better word, she's free. She's free of the violence. She's free of what she says. She's from being hunted, which is like, I can't even wrap my head around like you were hunted, and she's free of that because, tell us what happened 9 months ago.
Well, fast forward the story, past all kinds of like
or maybe
drug
we can go there.
and porn addictions. No, I mean we can fast forward it. It's okay. But through all of the, I left several times. I completely moved out. I started to file for divorce and then, went back again. And people will ask all the time, right?
Why did you go back?
Why doesn't she just leave? Why doesn't she just leave permanently? I mean, I was in the basement of the YWCA looking at the power and control wheel, which I think is a really critical tool, even though it's very gendered and it was made a long time ago. It still was, when I looked at it, it was a tool for me. I could not believe that someone had mapped out my life. I mean, and
that other women had and are going through it, and that you're not alone. Yeah,
that I wasn't alone.
She said the same.
Which jinx. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So I think that was a real turning point for me when I found that, and I still have my original power and control wheel that I got.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a piece of paper that it was like this little shredded copy that I have now. When I got it, it was a domestic violence detective that handed it to me and said, it sounds like you're experiencing some of these things, and we can look at that and you can even put it up. But basically goes through different components of the ways that abusers manipulate, like the actual specific ways. They use children, they use isolation, they use financial control, they use emotional control. There are several different components, and even though the language is more like 80s 90s sounding now, it still applies.
It's still the same. When did you realize, like, oh my gosh, I'm being abused? Or I mean, I'm sure you knew it from rape, but like that one's so much more clear than the emotional and the psychological abuse and financial abuse. Like, when did you finally say to yourself, oh my gosh? Do you remember?
I think when I realized that I did not actually know during which one of the rapes Salome was conceived. And then the next step was getting over the discussion about, I'm going to kill you if you ever tell anybody. And then the next step was, and so many more in between, right? The next maybe major step was finding that power and control wheel and realizing this truly is unsafe. And then after that was having, birth control withheld. Like, he wouldn't allow me to actually get any device, and I couldn't go pick up. He would stop me from using the car to go to the pharmacy to pick up pills. But
then he wants you to. It makes no sense.
I know. because it's not logical. Like, abuse isn't logical.
Right.
And the other thing I think it's really important to remember is that the steps to get out of abuse often don't seem logical from the outside either. And the way that abusers manipulate and twist things around creates a scenario where it's almost impossible for someone who hasn't had the experience to understand.
100%. Yeah. So
unless they've watched it, unless they have a close family friend.
Yeah.
Or
it's like I was talking with Leah before. I was like, I wouldn't be doing this interview. She's my friend though, and I knew her, and I was like, this is such a good cause. This is such a wonderful thing to protect kids and parents, protected parents. And I have a voice, and I have all of you, so many mothers who are so loyal and have had my back and supported me through my own heartache. And I've got this team of women who are just loyal and strong and faithful and want to help. And I'm like, this is the place. We've got to do it here because these moms are going to support. So in between all of you're dealing with a legal custody battle for years, right?
14 years. Mm-hmm.
And the court system, like I believed, like so many of us believe, like you're going to go and show all the evidence. He's abusive. I've been raped. He said he was going to kill me. There's all these threats. I have the proof. And somehow the abuser still gets custody. Like, what was your experience with that?
So I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
I really thought, I'm just going to go and tell the truth.
Yes.
And they're going to believe me. And here I have these small kids. I mean, Ohm was young at the time, and his sister was really young. And I thought for sure that...
So sisters conceived and raped as well.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I hid that pregnancy as long as I possibly could.
Yeah.
I mean, I was pretty healthy, so you couldn't quite tell. And, he didn't know till I was at least 3 months. And so I didn't even get prenatal care with either one of them until much later in the pregnancy. I mean, it's fine. They're healthy. It all worked out well. Right. I mean, I feel like that was
and this is coming from blessing. A midwife. I mean, she's scared.
Well, now I'm a midwife, right? Yeah. At the time, I just didn't dare tell him because I didn't know what he would do.
Yeah.
And I had a pregnancy in between those
You talked about that.
And I actually said this in my Judiciary Committee hearing testimony because I felt like it was very significant. I wanted them to understand the level that abusers will go to. And the very, very short story is just that I had a miscarriage and he flushed it in front of me. And it was obvious, and it was well developed, and it was I know more now, and so I can talk about it more clinically without the intense emotion that I had at the time and many times after that. But I think for the purposes of you and I talking today, the only reason why I bring it up is not to create drama or to embellish anything, but just to say, like, this is the real truth. Like, this is the kind of person that he was, and this is the kind of person that so many abusers are. And things that happen behind closed doors, we're afraid to say. Yeah. And, rightly so, because you feel it brings up so much emotion. You feel like you look crazy.
I'm like, how is she even holding this back? Like, I'm on the verge of crying. And, I mean, I'm sure you've had it. I'm sure you're all teared out. But, like, how are you even able to maintain composure talking about this stuff?
Well, part of this is the purpose, right? So, I mean, Ohm turned 14, and prior to that, he would beg. Please, someone needs to listen to us. Mm. And he knew that the law in Utah in particular is, when kids are 14, they may have the chance to be able to talk to some decision maker. And early on, we had custody evaluations. I mean, he was very young at the time. And the determination from the custody evaluation was 50-50. So that's like basically they call it a rebuttable presumption. So the idea is that most of the time, in most cases, both parents should be involved. Yeah. Well, that's when there are two healthy parents.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So when there's an unhealthy parent or an unsafe parent, that needs to be the decision needs to be completely different. They need to use a different filter. And I kind of like to use my medical analogy, which is like triage in the emergency room. Mm-hmm. So not too long ago, a mom came into my hospital, and I'm a board certified midwife. So I am in a hospital. I have prescription privileges. I admit, I discharge, I do all the deliveries, right? And a mom came in and she was bleeding postpartum and needed some medication. Well, of course, the right thing for the ER doc to do was to call a consult. So you call a consult and you make sure that the right specialist comes to take care of the problem. Right. So we helped her. Everything worked out well. It was all right. We gave her the right meds. We did all the right things. But what if he had called, I don't know, the orthopedist or the cardiologist or like whoever, somebody else. Yeah, exactly. Right. That didn't match what she needed. Mm-hmm. we have been able to avert that emergency and help her in the fastest way possible, the most efficient, like, not to mention the least expensive, right? But that's how
it just makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what courts should be doing. They're trying in some ways, but are not getting it right. And that's the reason why I'm going. That's the reason why I can still stand up today and say, all right, some things need to change. Because my experience it just dragged on for so long. They call it, protracted litigation.
Did they get to was he heard at age 14?
So 50-50 early on when he was young. I actually had temporary orders to be able to move away for a short time. It was until the divorce was finalized. And when I move away, I mean leave the county. Because he really wanted for my, how do I go back and say this? He demanded in court, right in front of a commissioner, that they call him doctor out of respect. And he was demanding that I live next door to him in this cinder block mouse-infested duplex that he had bought to keep us both in the same place so he could monitor me and monitor the kids. When Ohm walked out the front door with his sister, I didn't know if they would come back. That day, the next day, 2 days later, he would just take them. When we didn't have temporary orders, he would basically kidnap them. Yeah. And I didn't know when I would see them again.
And legally.
And I thought
there was nothing
I could do. Yeah. But I didn't know that at the time. Yeah. I thought, I'm going to call 911. This is an emergency. My family's like, you need to call. This is a kidnapping. But they would say, well, this is a civil matter. You need to take care of it. Sounds like your high conflict divorce issues are really rearing their head. You really shouldn't live next door to him. But I had no access to money. I was begging for money for diapers before that, right? Begging.
Let's not forget that she has 2 master's degrees.
Oh, now.
Yes, now, but you were still well educated.
At the time, I had a bachelor's and a master's degree. Yes. And I was actually moving into trying to do prerequisites for medical school. Yes.
A medical student speaks 2 languages, is smart. It's like she said in a previous podcast, you think that this is happening to poverty-stricken women or... what were other examples you said?
Just other demographics. Honestly, we really think that it happens to the other, right?
Only people in the slums, no.
Which it does.
Yes, of course. And that's all we think it is. But highly educated, grew up in a loving home and abused, raped, manipulated, coerced, controlled. And she couldn't get out of it. So they say, take care of it yourself. There's no legal, there's no orders.
Well, that's what, police have to say that. They didn't know. And now that there's lethality assessment protocols, and that's just as of last year, police are meant to ask specific questions that can help them understand and determine the severity of what's going on and then be able to refer to, shelters and advocates and all of that. That's something that's very new. The idea of a danger assessment is not new. It's many, many years old. But now there are more laws around that. So when I realized that there were more laws around that recently, I felt like, now's the time also, if our state and other states have been looking closer at those lethality assessment protocols or doing a danger assessment for adults in situations, why are we not doing danger assessments for children?
Seriously.
Why isn't there a lethality assessment protocol literally laminated on every decision maker's desk? It should be on every bench. It should be used in every custody evaluation. And so that's in some ways what Ohm's Law or House Bill 272 in Utah is, or Caden's Law known nationally, is the idea is, let's bring this up. Right. Let's make sure that courts are using the lens or the filter, just like I talked about in the emergency room. Call in the right specialists who actually do understand, and not the ones who actually don't know anything about the case or understand the case but want to manipulate, or understand the case so well that they know they can make money off of it. That's really critical. So,
I got so overwhelmed. With all of this stuff, it's so you just think that goodwill and being truthful will reign, and it's not always the case when money's involved. And it's like you said, don't have the eye surgeon go deal with the heart transplant. You want the right people working on the right job and doing it honorably. So some people won't even know what Caden's Law is. So how did this all come about? We've got to get to May, right?
Right. So
what happened was it in May?
Last May.
May of 2023.
So Ohm was about to finish his junior year, and for the 18 months before that, hadn't seen him very much. I mean, we had regular statute parent time, which if anybody looks that up, it's, there are lots of different ways to do this, but the actual like legal format is very complicated. And I mean, I try to explain to people, Ohm was 16 when he died, but to me, it was like he was 8. Because I had only had half of his life with him, a little over half his life, maybe more like 10, because he was with me full time during the temporary orders that we had.
Dad has custody of the kids, and then it's taken away from him.
So
right?
Early on, we had a custody evaluation where it was determined the kids should be split 50-50, which following statutes means that it's like, every other weekend, but not just that. We had a 2-2-5 schedule, which anybody who's even involved in this, or you have friends or family, you understand it's like literally every 2 days the kids are going back and forth, right? So with healthy parents, then maybe that would work, right? Because then the kids could be involved in sports and whatever else. No, that never happened for us. No. It was bouncing back and forth, completely different caretaking abilities, as you can imagine, right? The porn addict who would just like leave them with no food or wouldn't even be there, or it was like a nanny here and there, and just completely different.
And something that she testified about was that he was showing like the benefits of masturbation, right?
All kinds of things. Yeah. So many, how do I say? It was just an unsafe environment. That's an understatement.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no way to explain it. I mean, everything that was age inappropriate, all over the place. And it got worse and worse and worse.
And then you read his journal.
Yes, that was the point that I actually finally decided that was the final straw.
And that's when he said he was worried.
We were living in that duplex side by side. He was controlling everything. I mean, literally following me everywhere. And I was running out of money and had really like nothing to live on. And we only had the temporary orders. I knew that he would never really pay child support anyway. And so as soon as I found those journals, I realized, like, that's it. I got to get out. What happened was I looked in this, the garage was like a total dump, right? It was full of all kinds of garbage, including like old psych reports of patients and other things like that. Just full of garbage. And I happened to, and I know that it was inspired. I walked directly to the right box. I found this stack of journals that I had never seen before, these binders. I opened it up. I happened to open up to the right page, and there it was. I'm a sex addict, I'm a child molester, and I'm afraid I'll do it even to my own children. And that was written when he was 20, 21.
Oh my gosh. Did your heart sink? The kids
were outside. I went and got them. We came inside. It was like early afternoon. I put them to bed, and I just kept I was like spinning. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? He's abused me for this long. But that's when I first realized, now I can put all the pieces together, at least the ones that I had at the time. Now I understand that it's not just me he's abusing, he's also been abusing my kids too. I don't know how I didn't realize that. It's really, really common.
Because you want to feel the best in someone.
Again, I didn't grow up with it. I was in the place of trying to piece things together. I had to be careful about everything I said and did.
Did they talk to you about it, your kids?
The journals?
Their abuse.
Oh, yes. So later on, then, soon after that, things started to come out. But I took those journals to a domestic violence detective, and, the guy read it over, and he said, well, I could also be a millionaire, too. I could write that I was a millionaire, but where's your evidence? Where's your proof? So the burden of proof is just so heavy on the protected parent. And here I thought, it's written in his own handwriting. I can prove this. Here's a whole lot of other handwriting samples. In my mind, it was
no brainer.
If you're a detective, then you would detect that this is a problem.
Yes, you don't even have to do any of the work. You don't even have to take your little magnifying glass. It was
here.
Right
there. So I think finding those was the tipping point for me, for sure. At that moment, I knew that there was no going back. I had to get out, and I filed for protective order. I refiled for divorce, and decided. Did
all your fears kind of just be whatever, I'm done?
You can abuse. This is This is exactly what I'm going to say, something that doesn't make any sense at first, but just listen to it. My thinking was, you can abuse me, but you're not going to abuse my children, even though I knew he already had. So at that moment then was when we went, and I was able to get these temporary orders to be able to move, leave the county anyway.
I mean, this is a terrible example, but it reminds me of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, when she's being raped by the sheriff of Nottingham, and she's like, you may take this body, but it will not be me. It's not, it wasn't ever you.
Nope. No.
It wasn't, it was never you.
And that's why the work that I'm doing now is so critical, is that I have the freedom now to be able to speak out. And I didn't have that before. You have to be so careful. That's what people don't understand. And they really don't understand why safe parents stay. Yeah. Well, is it better to be with your kids 24 hours a day, if you possibly can, right? Or as much as you possibly can, or have a little bit more control over that? Mm-hmm. Or is it better to get out, get divorced, follow a parent time statute where you have zero control of what happens when they get out of that car?
Right.
So they can go to the other parent who you know is abusive, who you've been trying to tell courts are that person is unsafe in every way, but you have no control. If you don't send them, and I had to explain this to family and friends, it would be like saying,
then you get like the misdemeanor, like you get charged.
I try to explain it to family and friends. It's like you have a neighbor, down the street, whatever, that you're ordered. You have a court telling you your kids have to go there. You know that they're a predator, but if you don't send them, then you are in violation of parent time, which means you're in contempt of court, right? So it doesn't matter what the abuser does. If you can't prove it, with forensic evidence and everything else, then you have to continue to send them. So it doesn't matter if they're going to be abused tonight, tomorrow, this weekend, you still have to send them.
And they don't take the kids' testimony, like they don't care what the kids say.
So that's where the court-appointed professionals should step in, right? So guardian ad litem, custody evaluators, and
did that work for you?
All of the rest, no.
Why?
No. I think that this is where we need to look at this.
Yes.
And make sure we use the right.
So a guardian ad litem, if you're unaware, is basically an attorney designated just for kids, right?
Yes. So imagine, if you're in the place of a guardian ad litem, they typically, I want to believe, are attorneys, LCSWs,
with the
people who
kids in their best interest,
have best interest of kids, right? And they'll go to great lengths for schooling and all of that kind of thing. But I'm not necessarily for this, but they discover that this is a possibility within their career scope, and then decide, hey, I want to help kids. And once they get into it, I can imagine that you realize that when you're in the position of power, you're someone who can determine where kids are going to live. You get to decide and what you're going to say out loud in court, and the courts will believe you like 100%. Which parent is actually acting in the best interest of the child. And so
that power feels good.
Right. Yeah. Right. So you realize that you have control basically over the whole situation. And I think that in those scenarios, a guardian ad litem and a custody evaluator has the ability, they literally have the ability to change lives. They literally have the ability to save lives. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that there is enough of an understanding to know that that is the case. Yeah. When I was standing in the parking lot with the detectives, at the time that I found out that was gone, and I saw it on their clipboard that they had written, I saw something about gunshot wounds, and then I knew. I thought, I wonder if the guardian ad litem and the custody evaluator are still alive. And so
because he would go after
an attorney with us, and they called, and basically the answer was, well, I guess that wraps up the custody evaluation.
It just makes me sick.
So I think that's something to seriously consider and understand, that just like you mentioned, most people believe that you go to court, you tell the truth, and that the safe parent gets the kids. End of story. Done. Never go back. You finish it, and that everyone honorably pays child support, and that you can live and keep going, and the safe parent like keeps the kids in the same schools, and they all have and then everyone gets therapy, and all the therapy is great because the therapists have every kind of good intention, and then you just move on. And this happens very quickly. People think that it's just like a fast turnaround like the movies. It is not. It is 14 years of absolute hell.
Oh my gosh, Leah. When you so you tell us what happened. What did he do? What did Ohm's dad do?
Well, he got full custody of him in 2021, and then 18 months later he shot him. And I always thought it would be me. I always thought it would be me. I mean, from the very beginning. You know, he always said he would kill me. My IQ was so low I couldn't function, that I'd never be a mother, that if I made any attempt to tell anyone what he had done, that the kids would disappear.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a protective parent, you're going to just do what someone says when they have the proverbial gun to your head, you know?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I would be in corners with Ohm as a baby holding him, and the wall, you know, punched next to my head multiple times. And so it doesn't matter how close the punch like goes and like breezes past your face, you know, holding the newborn, that like your head's going to be next. And all he had to do is threaten close enough. And this is what they do. They come super close to the line, and closer and closer and closer, and just keep coming closer to that line, the boundary, in everything, right? In every order, in every scenario. And you know eventually they're going to cross it. And I tried and tried and tried to say, he's going to cross this. Something's going to happen. I read my emails to the court evaluators who were involved in our case, and over and over and over again, I begged, like, do something now. Please do something now.
And they never did.
I think they never thought this would happen.
And you thought, I mean, he tried to lure you in, right?
That week? Yeah, I mean,
So it probably would have been you.
It would have been me.
And your daughter.
It would have been my daughter. I made 2 parent time decisions in all of the 14 years. One I can look back at and say that I know for sure that I made the right decision, and one was a mistake. The one mistake that I made was when my daughter was little, elementary school, and I picked her up on the wrong day of school. So it was like February and March often have those coinciding days, and it's the same day as the same date as the day, right?
Yes.
And so I happened to pick up on like the wrong Thursday, and Friday. You know, Thursday was early,
which was supposed to be his time or something.
Yes. So he called and got a detective to file arrest charges. I did not even know about that until a couple of years later that had happened. But he let me know that he was calling the police, that I was in the wrong, and that I was in contempt, that he was going to take me to court about this in particular. So immediately, you know, poor little girl, she's having a play date. I had to like quickly get her into the car,
take her over to it,
but I couldn't go near his house because I was going to follow all the rules, and we decided we were not going to do curbside. Like, we only had a certain meeting place at a library. So I dropped her off, and she had to like walk back to his house while he's in a total rage. And then I found out later that I have an arrest record for it.
Oh my gosh.
And then the next parent time decision that I made that was not by the book was the week that Ohm died. When she called me and said, he wants me to come to dinner. What about his parent time? And my kids know. They knew they had to go. Yeah. And oftentimes this happens, you know, in situations where kids are told, well, if you don't go, then, you know, your mom, or if the dad's the safe parent, the dad is going to jail. And that's what so many evaluators in our case also threatened too with my kids. Like, if you don't follow the rules, then you realize that your mom's going to go to jail. Even schools said that. Like, if you don't show up to school and you don't do this, then you realize that your mom can go to jail. And just like the terror that a child would feel being told that, who was already in a trauma situation, you know? So she called me and said, he keeps telling me I have to go.
Is this your daughter you're talking about?
And I said, don't go. And she called and texted again. He really wants me to come. He really wants me to come. I said, don't go. I had the worst sinking feeling about it. And I know now, looking back, where that came from. It was messages and a couple of other things that he had sent me to try to lure me to his house that week. And I am so grateful, you know, that I that we at least had that moment, she and I, to connect. And I didn't tell her why. I didn't say anything else. I didn't even say I had a bad feeling about this. I just said, don't go. She's like, okay. And I think she kept doing her homework, and I, we had no idea. And then 2 days later, Om was gone. A day later, the next day he was gone. And then he was found 2 days later. So, at 16, I think Om had the emotional and psychological stamina of, I don't know what. I mean, he was just beyond his years, in wisdom and understanding. Yeah. He withstood being, in full custody of his dad for 18 months until his dad killed him. And I think he honestly was just staving him off. I think he was doing everything that he possibly could to make sure that we were safe.
Mm. And and you say, I mean, it was Om that freed you. And it was Om who, you said you paid a price, and it was a price you didn't want to pay. But that it's ultimately what brought, what's your daughter's name? Oh, you don't want to share
her name. Yeah, and that's okay. That's actually totally, okay.
Totally. I'm glad I was like, asked. Wait, I don't even know her name.
I think because she's still alive. She still has a life to live. Totally. She still has discoveries to make on her own about all of this. Like, she still has so much therapy to do. And by the way, I'm going to put in a plug for Bridal of Hope.
What's that?
They are so incredible because her dad was a psychologist and, drugged the kids and used all kinds of therapy tactics and all of that. That there's not a typical therapy that I can introduce to her.
Oh, seriously.
That is something that she would feel safe with. Even therapy language, like it just anything therapeutic, typical therapeutic, it's not going to work for her.
Right. So this is a whole different kind of
equine therapy. Yeah, working with horses.
Yes.
And their organization is fantastic.
Oh, that's why it's bridal. I was thinking wedding bridal.
I know. Bridal of Hope, like horses. Yes. So it's like
so
rescue
awesome.
Horses, rescuing girls. It's one-on-one. It's really phenomenal.
But what's crazy is that you're not crazy. You're still the protective parent.
Yes, I'll never stop. And now I'm really hoping to be a protective parent for others.
Yes.
That might sound like, I don't know.
No.
Presumptuous.
You're an advocate, and so many are rooting for you. So this now, Ohm's Law, this has turned into Ohm's Law, which is, in honor of her son. It was Caden's Law in Pennsylvania, and is it PK's Law? Peaky's Law
in California.
Mm-hmm. So it states use the same model of Caden's Law. Caden was a young little girl who was murdered by her dad as well, and
during unsupervised parent time.
Mm-hmm. And so Leah is working hard to get Ohm's Law passed, which is now past the first two steps, right?
Yes. So we passed the House Judiciary Committee, which is important, and then we passed the House floor.
So next is Senate House and Senate floor,
and then Senate. Basically Senate Committee and then Senate.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we need to know? I mean, when is this going to happen? What can people do?
Well, first of all, I mean, the sponsors of the bill are incredible. So I've never worked so closely with legislators. I did not really understand their capacity. I didn't understand my own capacity as what they call constituent.
Yeah.
Right. As somebody who lives in the state, I didn't realize that I could have a voice and speak up.
Right.
I think, as a survivor of abuse, most of us feel like we haven't had a voice anyway, so who's going to really listen?
Exactly.
And after 14 years of court drama, who's really going to listen to me? But I think now I feel very differently, and I also understand that it doesn't take the high intense trauma that I experienced to have credibility to reach out. I mean, protective parents often have this credibility deficit where they come in, already traumatized and you don't always present perfectly, but we really do have the ability to take action. So the most important thing that we can do is to reach out to our own legislator in our own area and tell them our story or our family story.
How do people find out who their legislator is? That's one thing I was like,
yes,
I don't know the first step to take to support this bill.
It's it shouldn't be difficult. You look on the legislative website for your state. In our case, it's Utah, and there's a place to put in your address and your zip code. Okay. And then it will tell you who your representative is and who your senator is. And there are many more representatives than senators because they have smaller areas, and then senators have a larger geographic area, just like the U.S. Congress, right? Yeah. But especially at the state level, I think we have a huge opportunity, so much work to do and a huge opportunity. So legislators need to hear thank you if they're a representative for this bill passing the House.
Interesting.
Because representatives are in the House, and they need to hear a plea, like an urgent plea right now to their senator.
Just from regular citizens, just from regular people saying...
What helps is if you have a story and you have it and you keep it really brief. I'm talking about like a few sentences, right? Mine is, I'm Ohm's mom. Ohm was 16. He was murdered by his dad during unsupervised parent time. We need your help to keep kids safe in our state. And this is what the law does. So it's basically 4 different parts. And there's a fact sheet that stakeholders have produced that show what this bill does. So in particular, the special part of this is that this has never happened in the U.S. before. So most of the time, most laws about kids' safety are very much directed toward juvenile court.
Yeah.
So like keeping kids safe who no longer have either protective parent,
right?
Parents are not protective at all.
Yeah.
But in family law, there's so much more wiggle room. So I like to say, and I heard this from an attorney passed this on to me who it made so much sense, that family court is like small claims court. We're talking about like a house, a bank account. Most cases are like tiny financially, right? And and seem small in other ways too. Yeah. One family, one household, that kind of thing. Family court is like small claims court, but with the highest stakes claims.
It's so true.
Because we're talking about kids and our next generation. Right?
Yeah.
So Ohm's Law, House Bill 252, 272, thank you. Ohm's Law, House Bill 272, keeping children safe from family violence, is meant to be modeled after Caden's Law, which is the national template. And what it's meant to do is only allow expert testimony. So meaning that in family court cases, the courts should be able to use that lens, that trauma lens, and understand like, okay, it should go one way or the other way, right? This case is either normal, like a usual divorce case, or this case involves family violence. This case involves abuse, and so we need to treat it accordingly. Like this is a special case for the specialist who needs to come in. Right. So, but the problem is that there are specialists out there, but not all of them are good actors, right? Many of them, and especially the ones who oppose this bill because it's going to hurt their business, are the ones who say, we're experts in family law, when they're not really experts in family violence, or have any real experience working with victims of trauma, or people who are survivors of abuse, especially child abuse.
Okay, is that all?
So that's one component. So there are 4 different things that the bill does. One is it puts child safety first. So we already have laws in Utah that say the courts should or may consider domestic violence in family court, but we wanted to change to shall. Yes. So,
shall meaning must.
Shall meaning must. Yes, they have to consider.
That's another thing I didn't know. Like in these laws, one word makes
one word makes a difference. So that's why this has been so carefully crafted, so that it's line by line, every single step along the way as we've been adapting this for Utah. It all reads according to like what should be truly safe for kids. Right. Because one word can make a difference. And then the expert testimony is another important part. And then the other part is safe therapy. So a lot of people don't realize that there's something called reunification therapy, and some extended therapy is a reunification camp, which literally, like, it sounds like sleepaway camp, but really it's this horrific experience that kids have when one parent who is abusive claims that they need to be reunited with the kids. And so then sometimes unknowing court professionals will say, or judges, commissioners will say, like, oh, we need to reunite this family. It's really important. Reunification is a big term in juvenile court because we don't want kids to be wardens of the state. We really want them to be with families. But the issue with family court is that the reunification therapy and camps, these are being used to push kids back into situations where they're with the abuser, and not only with the abuser, but meant to, it's almost like brainwashing. Totally. They're meant to reunite with their abuser and then disbelieve like that the abuse ever happened, or turn on the safe parent.
And half the time these reunification therapists at these camps aren't even legit.
Right. So, I mean, many of them have like a very, very poor reputation, right? But in some ways, courts don't know what to do, right? They don't have all the tools that they need. There's no time. The dockets are so full. There's no time for a judge or commissioner to really be able to dive into a case. They have to know right away the signs of abuse to be able to determine, which direction we're going to go. And then they also need to understand who's coming in to give them expert testimony.
Right. So they go away to these reunification camps. What is it, like 90 days? Sometimes
they're all different.
They're all different. They can go be taken away from the protective parent, the safe parent, be with the abusive parent, reunify them, brainwash them into thinking that it never happened and that this person's actually a good parent, but removes them from
the safe environment.
Yes.
Right.
And so Ohm's law is trying to make sure that what is it trying to do with reunification?
That's limited. That it's limited to only evidence-based therapy.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. The camps, yes, that they're like there's like tons of conflict around that. I think people are starting to see that that's, obviously not a good thing.
Yeah.
But with the reunification therapy, that's more common. So where there's like a parent coordinator or a family therapist, family systems therapy, that sounds really incredible, but actually it's meant to smooth things over so that there's less conflict. But we all know who's creating the conflict. Is the abusive parent.
I just was going to say, but aren't the kids like, I don't want to go. I don't want to go and sit there. And doesn't that make it worse? I mean, did it make it worse for Ohm?
Ohm was the most compliant child. I mean, he knew, he figured out very, very early that if he didn't comply, that he and his sister were further abused by their dad. So, I mean, that's a really classic scenario. Yeah. And he also figured out very early, and this is something we didn't talk about, but from his actions, I knew that this was happening, where he also knew it made it worse for me.
Aww,
and he was
protecting his mom.
So incredibly protective that he would just like kind of put his arm on his sister's back and kind of like guide her into whatever they were forced to be doing, whatever meeting, whatever therapy, whatever treatment, they had to have. And there's no way he couldn't have known. He knew.
Oh my gosh. I mean, you have like an Abraham and Isaac story. Have you ever thought of it like that?
No, I haven't. I mean, I know that there's so much abuse and, canonized abuse.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But I mean, like,
stories.
I just can't help but think of how you said it was like this. It's like he was sacrificed for you to live and to be free of the abuse. And we didn't mention either that his dad also, it was a murder-suicide, right? So.
Which is why I'm free.
Yes. What's the fourth thing in Ohm's law? So we have reunification therapy, getting the right therapists involved, right? And it's limited.
And evidence-based.
Evidence-based. And it is child safety over parental rights. Can I say that? I mean...
Yes, over abusers' rights.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the last part of it actually plays into that, and that's that courts should have more training than they do.
That's what it was. They're being trained by...
The first part, yeah.
Professionals
so it's follow the laws that we already have, but let's make, instead of the courts may consider domestic violence and abuse, they must.
Yes.
And then the next is they've got to be able to recognize it. So how? With all the things that they have to do and all the decisions they have to make, because Utah doesn't have a specific set-aside family court like some other states do.
Yeah.
So these are decision makers like deciding about all kinds of other things, but that they should have more training to understand and be able to triage.
And Caden's law, when it was passed, didn't the U.S. or like, I don't even, my vocabulary is so limited.
It's okay.
But like when this law passed, wasn't there funds that are given to be able to fund it?
So that's another part of the federal standard, is that if states follow and comply with certain things, like they have to have certain content, which actually is also in the Utah bill as well. It's modeled after that very closely. But if states comply with certain things, then they can get what's called appropriations. So it's like money from the federal government, basically free money that says, here, you can use this to do some extra training, right? Because it costs to do that.
Yeah.
It's people's time and
but it's just
professional time.
Given.
That. It's just given, right?
As long as this law passes, that.
However, it's a little different here in Utah. Every state is different. Some people feel like that there's too much oversight. There may be too many strings attached. Like it's like grant. So if you've ever heard or seen or written a grant, you know that there are certain parameters you have to follow, and that happens quite a bit in domestic violence education and program funding. So that's what this is meant to be, is like, hey, the federal government has this money and they say, here, states, you can each take some.
And why wouldn't we?
Because there are several people involved in it who don't want to take that. They don't want the strings attached. So that's okay. That's all right. And, you know, with the House Judiciary Committee actually mentioned, you know, it'd be great if we have some accountability too. So fine, let's let the Utah legislature like implement this and then let the judiciary operationalize it. So in other words, like let them put it into place and decide, you know, in their annual conferences or whenever they're going to do this, to put in place some extra training on child abuse and domestic violence, and they can understand who the abusers actually are in these cases, so that they're making the correct decisions along the way.
I mean, it just makes sense.
And not placing kids in danger.
Yes.
Yes. So if they have that kind of education, then we're hoping that not only will reduce and like shorten these court dockets, because there won't be so much like protracted litigation, but also so that then they're just armed with knowledge. Yes, so here's the trouble. I would say people who are opposed to this bill stand to lose money. People who are for the bill, the overwhelming majority of the House and the overwhelming majority of public, and people who understand abuse or have any contact with victims of domestic violence, would be for it, because all it does is just elevate the standard.
Right.
So it just elevates our standard of considering where a child should be and where the safest place for them is. That's really all that it is.
Yeah.
So yes, there are lots of components and like lots of other things, but the policy question really is, should we care a little bit more about kids, especially kids in family court that are stuck in that cycle?
Right.
Yeah, I think that I would say probably to those that are in opposition, whether or not they fully understand this, whether or not they've had contact with someone who really has had an abuse case, even if it's not as acute as mine, that I understand that this would probably feel a little bit scary. We're going to limit expert testimony. Well, what if you are someone who gives expert testimony and that's your job? Like, that's your career.
Yeah.
This is meant to help you.
Yeah.
It's meant to help those who actually truly want to help kids. So if you have good intentions and you are involved in any kind of court evaluations and you think you might stand to lose money on this, what's really more important? Is it child safety, or is it, your career?
Right.
Well, then alter your career aspirations.
Right,
like,
exactly.
Just pivot, shift, and realize that you could become more of an expert in abuse and domestic violence, get some experience with victims, understand more about how these cases work and the nuances and the challenges along the way, because it's like just this complicated labyrinth, And even I think in my case, I was in this for so long, I still had a huge learning curve. And I was the one who had the experience and the information. It's just to sort it out and untangle it. It's really challenging. So I think that I would probably say that if you stand to, have a career change in this, or someone who does, and you feel up in arms about it, really take a look and examine what the purpose is behind, your business and what you're doing. And I would say that to the attorneys too. There's an attorney that came out very strongly in written opposition to legislators against this, and he was the one who helped Ohm's dad get full custody of him.
He freaking represented the abuser.
And then 18 months later, Ohm was gone. So I don't... Even though there were lots of attorneys, he had many, many, many attorneys, and, this one was only there in place for a short time. It doesn't matter. He heard 8 to 9 hours of mediation, all the drug abuse, the sex abuse, the child abuse, all of this. And in the end of that mediation, I said out loud, on that record, so you're asking me, in telling me that my kids should be split so you can appease the abuser and at least give him something.
Yeah.
You're asking me to sacrifice my son to save my daughter.
Yeah.
And there really was no response to it. So that was the one solution that they could come up with at the time. And that's not okay.
No.
So if you're an attorney in that situation, or if you should be loyal to your client, well, who are you really loyal to?
Exactly.
We need to think through the logic behind all of this. It's not logical to send kids to an unsafe parent.
Do the right thing. And I guess this is where greed and money and winning.
Well, I think we also need to reconcile the fact that that predators exist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really strong word. And not every unsafe parent is as much of a predator as the next.
Right.
But when kids are not in a safe scenario, and look at our statute, Utah has a longer list of considerations for children's best interest than almost any other state. So we're really trying here.
Yeah.
We're just not following them.
Right.
And the reason why we aren't following them is because the decision makers really need a little bit more training to understand
exactly
what they're looking at. Like, what is the scenario? Lift it off. Take off a few more layers and take a look at who the players are. Mm-hmm. Who should the children be with so that they can stay safe?
Well, because there's so much. It's like the parent rights at all costs. The parents, the kids are just like little puppets. Yes. Being sent to wherever. They don't have. Didn't Ohm say it? Like, when will they let me speak?
He was 5.
Oh.
Yeah, he was in kindergarten. And all he knew was that there was somewhere in a big building downtown, there was someone who was going to decide where he would live, where he would go to school, which holidays he could be with which parent, what exact time he would have to be picked up for that holiday. And for all he knew, it was, a bunch of adults in a room making decisions about his life.
Yeah.
And even at 5, he wanted a voice. He wanted to be able to tell them what he wanted. And I think he really wanted to be able to speak for his sister too, because she's 2.5 years younger than him. So she was, 3. So this little kindergartner had to step up and speak, and wanted to step up and speak for his 3-year-old sister. And all these people with all of their degrees and all their power and everything else, it didn't happen. It never happened. And later on, he did claim that he wanted to live with his dad. But he was so coerced and so manipulated and just so brainwashed at the time. But also, I think that in all of that, he had that underlying knowledge that he knew he was being protected. And in some ways, Ohm did just what I did early on. I stayed and stayed and stayed and stayed. He really saved me.
Oh my gosh. What else do you want to add before we close this?
Let's say we need to look at a few more things. I think that's something important to remember is that protective parents can't do things that normal parents,
exactly,
where hopefully everyone is a protective parent, but safe protective parents can't say and do things that other parents can say and do. No.
That's all used against you.
Send your child to school. It doesn't matter if they're sick or not, because then you're viewed as keeping them from education. And what if that other parent is picking up on that day after school, and then you're keeping them from their parent time? You also can't, there are lots of common orders, like don't badmouth the other parent, right? And so then abusers will take that to a totally different level, where then the safe parent can't even teach their kids about body safety. I knew my kids were molested. I had to be so careful in what I told them. I couldn't come right out and teach them body safety. It had to be in other ways. Because then it's... Because then I was viewed as like going against the dad, and I'm planting ideas in their head, right? Where, again, it already happened. And multiple times before with other children in his life before. So much came out of the woodwork.
Has anyone else come forward to you about their experience with him? They have since.
Many over the years. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think everyone who has wanted so much to do the right thing, But, you know, they were terrified too.
Yeah.
The difference is that, you know, I end up having, I mean, I have children with him, known children. I don't know how many kids he has across the country, who knows, but it's just, I think the stakes were probably too high. I'm sure they had the same threats too.
Totally.
You know, I'll come after you.
Oh my gosh.
And all you have to do is just show a bit of coming after.
Yeah.
You know,
and not to scare you. Yes.
And then you comply. It's what abusers do. This is what they're good at. That's why that power and control wheel is actually a great tool, because it helps identify like scenarios of domestic violence, of intimate partner violence. Right. It helps people really see more clearly, like, oh, this is happening. It's not just the black eye, broken arm, right? It's, I wanted so badly. I honestly, this is like, I'll say it out loud now. I prayed for something to happen.
Like proof.
If I could just have some physical evidence of this, like more than, no one's gonna believe marital rape. It really happens. It happens all the time. It happens every day, but we don't talk about it. So what am I gonna do with that? I mean, I wanted so badly to have that black eye so I could show up at the emergency room and get the medical reports and then be able to go get an actual protective order, because it was so challenging to get. But instead, I had to give the stories, and then I'd have the arguments back were like, well, we're a wrestling family. That's why.
Oh my gosh.
That's why I was like, you know, on top, like.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
I didn't even know what the HB stood for. That's how.
House bill.
Yes. House Bill 272.
It can be SB or HB.
Yeah.
So
I was
Senate
like,
bill, House bill.
House
Yes.
Bill 272,
Right.
Ohm's Law. Give us kind of a recap of what it is, what we're trying to do, what you're trying to do.
Right. So Ohm's Law is the nickname. Another part of the nickname also is keeping children safe from family violence. And that's just so that people understand what the content is. The official name on the law, the written law, is Child Custody Proceedings Amendments.
Okay.
And the sponsors are Representative Cutler and Senator McHale. And this is happening in Utah, but it's made to be, it's basically a template of the federal law or statute that is also referred to as Caden's Law.
Right.
So Ohm and Caden were both killed by their fathers during unsupervised parent time. And the fact sheet of the law really gives the most information. So that's something that I would definitely advise people to take a look at.
Yeah.
And as the history behind this is that Ohm's Law is named after my son, who was killed when he was 16 years old by his dad. We had 14 years of court abuse, many years of abuse before that, but 14 years of protracted litigation, basically being involved in family court, where I told the courts over and over again about his dad's substance abuse and sexual assault history and child abuse and the whole 9 yards. And they were, and through the system, as we were caught up in it and caught up in all the evaluations and all the extra hearings and all of these things, the courts didn't actually see and also didn't act on what I was trying to convey. And that's really what this law is meant to do, is to help to untangle these situations, give courts more tools to really understand abuse and understand how to identify the safe parent and get kids to safe parents as soon as possible, so that things don't last this long, so that children are not killed, so children are not continuing to be abused. As long as we keep the standards the way that they are now as status quo, things are not going to change. Right. So I have to say, I mean, this law doesn't change everything. It doesn't.
Right.
And it's also going to be, words. It has to be put into action. And that's going to be that will create the biggest
And
change.
so one of the biggest things in this law is that it says, judges may consider expert testimony, and it's being changed. Well, we hope to change it to shall be considered, right? So it must.
So that they must consider domestic violence in cases. So that expert testimony is limited to only experts of abuse who actually have experience working with victims. So that reunification therapy or trying to put kids back together with their abusers doesn't happen. That therapy in family court cases should only be evidence-based. And then that judges and commissioners and court personnel should have some extra education on all this so they can understand it better and be able to identify these cases and work through them in a much safer way for kids.
It just seems like a no-brainer.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Hello.
But as you can tell with the length of time we talked about it,
yes.
It's complicated.
It is.
But what we can take from this is that the policy question is, are we going to, in Utah, enact a law that helps to start untangling this mess and keep kids safer? Do we care more about keeping kids safe, or do we care more about power and control?
Right.
Power and control of abusers, power and control of people who are in scenarios and situations where they can stand to make money off of court evaluations.
Money.
That's really what it comes down to.
Right. Okay, and before we end this, Leah, I did want to ask how it is that you have been able to even get through this. How are you sitting here right now with me talking about this, trying to make change? I mean, yes, I understand why, but like he hasn't even been gone a year. How have you been pushing for this and dealing with your own grief?
I think I've lived in trauma for so long, and my kids lived in trauma for so long, and having it be, I mean, I don't know how to say it another way, but a murder-suicide of my son on Mother's Day weekend, like he calculated it to the very end.
And let's not forget, in those statutory laws, Mother's Day is always the mother's weekend.
Right. So
it's not an every other.
Should have been with me. Yeah. And then, thinking about him being found not until the next day. I mean, the reason why I want to speak out and the reason why I think I can keep going, because I mean, so many people have said, I'd be in bed.
Right.
I'd be on a beach somewhere. I would be whatever. But I can't ethically or morally not do this. I mean, I don't want this to happen to another family. I do not want this to happen to another protective parent. No parent should feel this way. And I don't even blame people who don't understand or are confused about it or think like, well, why didn't she get out earlier? 14 years, I would just leave. I'd leave the country. I would no, I couldn't. I didn't dare get my children passports because they'd be used and then they'd be gone. Yeah. I wouldn't have seen him again.
Right.
If I had stayed, he would have killed us all. That's the truth of it.
Yeah.
The system failed.
And for the people that are saying, well, why didn't she just leave? And we can be so grateful that they have no idea what it really...
You don't understand.
Because it's awful.
Because then that means that you haven't had to experience this. Mm-hmm. That means that you can't wrap your head around it. That means you're actually really normal. You're normal in your approach to this, where you think, how could this happen? It doesn't make any sense. How could it happen to someone educated? How could it happen to someone who had seemingly so much, family support and community support and all of that? No, this domestic violence occurs in every socioeconomic category, in every location across the country and around the world.
And let's not forget that domestic violence isn't always physical abuse. That's what I thought. I didn't even know that DV, like they're throwing around the acronym or the letters DV. Oh, she's a DV victim. I'm like, what? It's domestic violence. Like I didn't know it was a thing. Or
those at IPV, like interpersonal violence or intimate partner violence.
Really?
Right. Yep. But the thing is that I think that there's such little understanding of what that all encompasses.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like you wait to be physically abused, which is why she wanted the black eye.
It's not just physical.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about
emotional. Go ahead.
Sexual, emotional, financial. I mean, the whole thing.
Which is
and it can be a
oftentimes
combination of those things or just one
worse.
of them.
Yeah.
And several of those things can actually be worse
Than the
because
physical.
they can leave lasting scars.
Right. Leah, you are like the ultimate game changer. You're a disruptor of in a good way. You are making change. There are so many women that are rooting for you.
Thanks.
Did you want to talk about this letter?
Let's see. Could. We could.
Do it.
It was super interesting in the house.
Yeah,
the house
tell me
floor
about
debate
that.
was wild. I mean, I got to be there, sitting on the floor, invited by the sponsor, and all of a sudden, there was basically a pause put on the bill before there was even a vote. There was a vote to just hold it, and the stall tactic came from the Psychological Association of Utah, using several lies printed and handed out to every single legislator on the floor. And I think the painful part for me was that, Ohm's dad was a psychologist involved in that organization. They put out a statement 48 hours after he was found, supposedly consoling anyone about the loss. But I never heard from them again. And in fact, it wasn't directed toward me. It was to the media.
I mean, it's just more...
So then another letter put out and calling groups that are for this bill and advocating for more accountability in family courts. Fringe. Like, what does fringe mean? Saying that somehow this is like really on the outskirts, that there's no evidence for the bill, that it's...
Now, for someone like... I was watching this hearing. I have never watched a hearing before in my life. We don't care.
You're watching the floor vote,
yeah, I watched
right?
both.
Both. Okay.
Okay. So, but I'm watching this, and they're like, all in favor say aye. They say aye. All opposed say no, and they're like, no. And he couldn't tell which was more.
The speaker couldn't tell which one.
So then they
and
put
this is the vote on the pause. Like, should we pause the bill or not? And pause means stall it, and pause meant, so this letter was sent out to confuse the legislators who probably didn't have time to really go into the details of this.
Yeah.
They weren't the ones sitting in the committee hearing, listening to me and testimony.
It was like, they didn't hear her testimony. They didn't hear all the other people that were testifying about their own abuse. And he's like, I can't hear the majority. Let's put it up for a vote. And I guess I could push a button that says yay or nay. And so all these lights are going up like yay, nay. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like watching... It was like watching, which president's going to win. Like the majority of yays and the majority of nays. And I'm pulling my hair out.
For people who care about abuse matters and domestic violence matters, yes, it was an interesting moment.
Oh my gosh.
But the pause happened, and then there was some clarification. And like I told the news media too, I'm actually really glad that we were able to resolve some concerns. The manipulation of legislators should not happen at the very last minute.
No.
It was like this last second, let's try to just confuse everybody. In fact, it felt like an abuser.
Yes.
It felt like a redo of what happens in family court, where there's last minute evidence. And
totally. They just throw it at you.
Twist it around, and you use lots of fancy terms, and then use an organization's name, who I actually don't think that this was circulated to the whole organization. For approval. All of a sudden.
So what you guys aren't understanding, and I didn't understand, is that before the bill is presented, I don't want to say the bad guy, but the people that are opposed to the bill put a letter on the desks, like went and just like delivered a letter.
And some were hand delivered.
To these, what are they, to the legislators?
To every legislator who had a vote. So if they were capable of voting, then they were targeted by the groups of opposition, and very systematically, very calculated.
Yeah. It's cheating. And it's like they went in there and they gave these letters, and then the people, they trust each other. Oh, well, this seems legit. Okay. Opposed.
I'm going to vote against it.
Yes.
Yeah. So luckily the vote was paused.
Yes.
And then the final actual vote was overwhelming majority. I mean, and I couldn't be more happy. Like, I think people understood it within a couple of hours. Before that floor time ended, and it took a couple hours, there was much more understanding about what this really is. And I think that the sponsor actually said it really well when he said the policy issue is that we're elevating the standard of what we use to determine the best interest of the child and who actually cares about kids. And if you do care, you really are going to promote this.
Yes.
Yeah. This is like, it's a no-brainer, like you said.
It is a no freaking brainer.
Yeah. So I think, no matter what, it's, it feels like a custody battle.
Yes.
Honestly, it feels like I'm redoing a custody battle.
Oh my gosh.
But I don't have any doubt that once someone actually understands what this is and that it's really meant to be in place in our state to keep kids safe, that there's really no question.
Okay, you guys. So first of all, like, I felt like that needed to be shared. Like, there is dirty stuff that happens even at the Capitol, like right under our noses. They're like, all right, pass this out. I just am like, wait, what you think of these politicians is, I am so like naive. But you think they're trustworthy. You think they're honorable, and a lot of them are.
And many
right?
of them are, but they have so many bills in front of them. There's so much decision
You
making
don't get
happening
it. I
in a
don't
short
get
amount of time. Our Utah legislative session is the shortest
And if
almost of
something's
anywhere in the country.
And if it's stamped by the Utah Psychological Association, I
then
mean,
you think like, well, that sounds believable. They're telling me not to vote against it. They're saying that whoever put this up and put this together is actually fringe, which it's not. It's like World Health Organization and several others. But then all of a sudden, what should they do when it was meant to cause confusion?
Yes. So yeah, I'm probably throwing all these poor people under the bus that are just like, oh well, okay, I'll go.
I think
by
a
this.
lot of them are very well intentioned.
Yeah.
In fact, most of the legislators that I've met who have taken the time to really understand and have heard even just a small part of even my story and understand that I could fill the Capitol right now with families and children who are being affected by this today, like right now, with people who are waiting, who are putting their court cases on hold to pause until this passes because they really strongly believe that it will help. Yes, that it will change things, that it could actually change the course trajectory of their children's lives and their lives. So, yeah, this is extremely important. I think that most of them want to do the right thing. Yeah. The legislators in particular, they do. They just have so much in front of them, so much on their plate, on their desks, that once this is slapped on there and it sounds legitimate, then, I mean, it was an interesting tactic. Yes. But it didn't work.
Yes. Strategic and luckily did not. It failed. I think that's all. Right? I know. Are we good?
Do we close it with anything?
Yeah, we will. Okay. Okay, you guys. So again, this is Utah House Bill 272, Ohm's Law. Leah is Ohm's mom, fighting for this bill and for parents everywhere that want to protect their kids from abusers. If you are watching this video or listening to this podcast, we encourage you to find out who your Utah. Does it matter? Yeah, it has to be Utah, right?
Utah senator.
Find out who your Utah senator is, and they email the Utah senator.
You can email, you can text, you can call. Their information is under each of their names on the legislative website.
And all you have to do is say, please support this bill. I mean, because I think that's what people don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. What do they say to the senator? And
it helps with a few sentences of, this is important to me. It helps if you have a few sentences that attaches to some experience, either your personal experience or a friend or a family member, someone that you truly know and that you care about. That means even more, especially if it's someone who lives in their area, in their district, their geographic location. That means even more.
Yeah. I mean, and if you aren't experiencing it, I promise you know someone that does or that is.
Use my name.
Yeah. Yes.
Say that you heard it here. It's fine.
Please pass Ohm's Law, House Bill 272. Just you can text them, you can email them, you can call them. I emailed and he responded. He responded to me and he said, I am likely to encourage this to be passed. And I was baffled that he wrote me back, but they really do have the constituents in their mind. I want to believe, and I believe that they do.
And we'll post the fact sheet so you can use the fact sheet.
Yes, that will be on there. You've probably seen it. Yeah. Oh, they can send it?
It's really helpful if you attach that to an email. Mm-hmm.
Because they haven't even seen it themselves?
Because many of them are still kind of trying to wrap their heads around this. Again, they have so much on their plate. So that's really critical.
Okay. Yeah. I'll attach that.
The other thing that I would say also, besides this bill, is just this topic is challenging. I mean, it's just, it's not pleasant. People really struggle with it. I think, even my own family and friends have just been appalled at what they've come to understand. And so I would say
I've been like, we're just living our own little lives, and then you don't know what's really it really is like she's been living in a movie. This horrible.
It feels like someone else's life.
Yes.
But I just want to say one more thing, and that's that we need to believe. It is really, really, really uncommon. In fact, the studies show that the percentage of lies about abuse are really minimal. In other words, when people come forward and have the courage to come forward, they are taking their life in their hands, or their children's lives in their hands, in order to disclose. And there are very, very few times that disclosure is a lie. Very few. I mean, even down to like the 2 and 4% kind of category when you look at studies. Yeah. So the overwhelming majority of people who actually disclose, children and adults, they're telling the truth.
Wow.
And we need to believe them.
Yeah.
I do it in my medical practice. That's something that's really critical to me. When someone discloses abuse, you stop and you take the time, even if it's just a couple of minutes, to believe, because that will be the biggest game changer for them. And sometimes it takes several times of disclosure, or even sort of like slight testing the waters, you know. So that's one of the things that I think is the most critical message, besides, yes, we want this bill to pass, but you know what, really day to day, in our day-to-day actual lives, we're 1 in 3 in Utah of women who are affected by intimate partner violence. It is so incredibly high. It's higher than the rate of, like, you know, colon cancer and breast cancer and everything else. So this is a public health crisis. So it's not just about this bill. It really is about believing survivors of violence when they do come forward and say something. We need to be able to get them to an advocate. The Utah Domestic Violence Coalition is a great resource. There's a link line when you look on their website that you can call. If you have any questions, you don't have to be a survivor or a victim or anything else. You can just be a concerned person. If you hear this from, you know, an aunt, cousin, friend, neighbor, you know, sister, whatever. And maybe it's a male. Yeah. Sometimes that happens too. But the overwhelming majority of perpetrators are male. That's another thing that studies show as well. This bill in particular is not gendered. It's not about moms or dads. It's about safe parents. Right. That's something that's really important to remember. But I would say just we need to believe.
Well, and the second that they are believed, it encourages them, I think, to keep going.
It's empowering. Yeah. It's like almost starting to give them an antidote, you know, to the abuse. And the deeper that someone is in abuse, the harder it really is for them to be able to recognize it. I mean, it took me a long time to get out, a long time, years, as an educated adult, you know?
Totally. Yeah. Totally. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
For bringing this to light, because I was clueless. I know that my family's clueless, my friends, like, we have no idea what really goes on. So I am encouraging you from this podcast, if you're watching or listening, to call your Utah senator, email, text, have them support this bill, believe the victim, and let's make some changes in Utah. The world is watching, and we can speak up for abuse victims and for those that will be abused, we can prevent.